Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank Keith Parris. Let me almost said. But I called it. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Devo. Good morning, Carvey. I almost said it. I don't know.
You almost said what?
You know what I almost said. So good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. Again, the phone lines are open 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250.
Keith, can I something just crossed my mind. I need to do, as you oftentimes will do when you misspeak, I need to clean up on aisle 3. I said something earlier.
Aisle 2.
Oh, you do too. I was in aisle 3 when I did it, though.
No, it's usually the day.
Oh, okay. Well,
I should have got with you at rehearsal. That's my bad. Go on, man.
Right. Well, my whole thing is...
You're such a nerd. Oh, my God.
Earlier when I was reading a text to Michelle, I said somebody we both know and love.
Mm-hmm.
I need to clean that up. I didn't mean
it. You know I knew it was Keith. I knew it was
No,
Keith.
It wasn't Keith.
It wasn't?
No.
Who was it that we both... Lakeisha
Myers,
oh.
Yeah. Let me clean that up.
I could have been only one or two of them that you would have been talking about that we both know and love.
Yeah, and I need to fix that right away.
Yeah,
so what were you fixing? That you don't love her? Or?
Well, I mean, I could never publicly acknowledge that.
You sound like me and Keon. Now, nigga.
Is that your September?
Okay.
If you
he had 2 early in the month of September.
I sure did.
That's 3.
Yeah, that's like my third one. I go like, dude, now, if you get out here talking about how much I love you, I'm gonna deny it. I'm gonna deny it. I'm gonna deny it.
I do not.
And I'll tell you somebody else who would do that too.
Oh yeah. But
I don't have to deny it because I don't say it in the first place.
No, but she said it the other day on air.
Said what?
When people were trying to, defend you, and she was like, "Well, let me be clear, I get him, I woo, but we have a great relationship.
I ain't say I love
him. Now, why you lying on the air?
I ain't say I love him.
Oh, she was lying.
Lying on the
air. Because you got too many supporters.
I was talking to my friend, and we were just talking about. I'm surprised at people who actually listen to our programs, right? And she was talking about the time. She said, yeah, people calling in. I was going to call in because they attacking you because you said you went to Dominican and you think you all of that. So, well, what did they say that was wrong?
Thank you. Thank you. I've had to tell some of your people, like, he is messed up.
It's like they don't hear the things that he said.
He throw blows all the time. He has a segment.
And then turn and look out the window like he hasn't
whole
done
show
anything.
To being a hater. Like, why are you defending this man? But yeah, and it's all women. Keith, they did that. Keith, they did nothing. Yeah.
I got some groupies too.
Yeah, I'm just saying. A whole slew of church ladies.
Somebody called me.
Keith alone.
Somebody asked Debo last week. He said, you got groupies? I said, yeah, I was sitting over there with him. He was sitting over in the Debo in the Love, Peace, and Soul groupie area over there,
right.
man.
Keith, you ought to stop.
I know he got them. Because they show. And they do not like me. Like Keith's listeners, there's ladies do not like me.
They shouldn't.
Give
them a reason to like you.
Well, I mean, they don't like me because it seems like because I mess with you.
Let me.
And I'm just like, what is
let's
this?
See if I can do Barry. I think you're likable enough.
Sucked. All I know.
So Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Miss can't sing.
At least Amber Rose said she did some research.
Yeah, she talked to her daddy.
Who? Joe?
Amber Rose.
Oh, Amber Rose.
She said she talked to her daddy.
Is Joe Jackson still alive? He's still alive.
No.
When did Joe die?
Like
when he died.
5 years ago, maybe?
Joe ain't been dead that long, has he?
Joe been dead a pretty good piece.
I didn't know Joe died.
Let's look and see. When did Joe Jackson die?
There wasn't no bunch of hoopla about it, though. I mean,
Hey, let me ask you, Debo. Saturday was September 21st.
Okay.
Did you do anything on September? Earth, Wind, and Fire?
2018.
No.
He's been dead 6 years.
2018.
Oh yeah, on
Yeah,
76
on
and Good Hope.
76th Street. Her and
Yeah.
his sister.
Tamika's daughters actually good friends with that
Yeah,
young lady.
they caught dude.
They caught him.
Yeah, they caught him.
Did they catch him or did he turn himself in?
No,
I
they
just
found
heard
the
he was in
car.
custody or something.
Yeah, they found the car, then they found him.
Okay.
Man, people out here, man. I know you driving 90 miles an hour, and ain't going
Ain't
nowhere.
going nowhere.
Ain't going
I
nowhere.
thought my son was tripping when he told me about it because he was telling me about it Sunday morning. He was there. I guess something, and I don't know that they're related in any way,
Mhm.
but somehow or another somebody got a gun into the club, so somebody got shot in the club, and then while everybody's outside is when the car runs the girl over. So it was a lot going on in that intersection.
What's happening in Birmingham?
I was just getting ready to say a number of people hit me up talking about, and that was not far from where my mother used to work, but what was it, 21 people?
Yeah,
that
but this is
ultimately
the
get-
second one. They had 4 people died earlier this year in the shooting in
I mean,
Birmingham.
but Birmingham is the take no prisoners ain't playing with you
Wow.
capital of the world. Like people that don't know, like I said before, when I went down there and couldn't figure out what was going on with the police for a routine traffic stop, 2-3 squads pull up on you to do the stop, and legitimately you just get a speeding ticket. And I talked to my brother like, what's happening down here? He was like, because these cats is killing cops.
Yeah.
They don't care. Like they set them up, they lure them in. Like Michelle, when I tell you these young boys down here in Birmingham is out of control. And so when I see this story, I'm just like, how you shoot up this whole place like this?
Oh, it happened.
Just indiscriminate, didn't care. And then when the officers or people was talking about, look, they was walking up on bodies on the ground.
Yeah.
Like you in some war area.
But you know, I won't get into. Let me do my cleanup on Al too. Last
Apologizing to me. Oh, okay.
What's the temperature in hell right now? Froze. Last week we were talking about Sean Combs' legal situation. And one of the things that we talked about was that he is being charged under the Rico Act. The Rico Act is the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. This is primarily what was put in the law in 1970 to go after mobsters.
I was gonna say gangsters, yeah.
And then it started applying it in the 80s and 90s to drug cartels. But it's real interesting why they're charging him with RICO. And one of the things they talked about was witness intimidation.
Right.
This is probably why they're not going to let him have bail. He has already reached out to folks trying to tamper with witnesses. And so let me just give you what it is summary. Under RICO, a person who has committed at least 2 acts of racketeering activity drawn from a list of 35 crimes, 27 federal crimes, 8 state crimes within a 10-year period can be charged with racketeering if such acts are related in 1 or 4 specific ways to an enterprise. Those found guilty of racketeering can be fined up to $25,000 and sentenced to 20 years in prison per racketeering count. In addition, the racketeer must forfeit all ill-gotten gains and interest in any business gained through a pattern of racketeering activity. What they're talking about is, again, I was listening to an attorney this morning explaining that he was saying that even though his enterprise, Sean John, all those things are not criminal, he used some of the resources of those businesses to promote criminal activity. Certainly looks like in violation of the Mann
Like
Act.
he used money from the business to buy the baby oil. I mean, what
Yeah,
are
the
we
baby
saying?
oil, the drugs.
Okay.
He was finding male prostitutes. That violated the Mann Act.
Was he?
Yeah, he was.
Was
What the paper
he?
say? Yeah, he was.
Was he?
So that's why he was charged with RICO. and Michelle and I was talking about the Monsters, which is the Lau and Eric Menendez story that they're showing on Netflix.
Mm.
And I didn't realize this, this happened. This has been 30 years ago. These dudes have been in
Has
jail
it
for
been
30 years.
30?
1994. To the point, actually started 93,
Oh my
94.
God.
Remember the Northridge earthquake?
No.
Out in California, they had the Northridge earthquake. 70 people died.
Okay.
So they're in jail when this earthquake is happening.
Okay.
This is also, I don't know if it was Lau or Eric was in the cell next to O.J. Simpson. And so there's a scene where he's talking to OJ. OJ said, I'm getting out, da, 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 da. And then he said to OJ, you should take a plea deal. Wrong. And then when OJ got off, he was saying, well, we're going to be able to get off. But when you look at the elaborate lies that these dudes told, and it was.
Is it a series or just one?
No, it's
just
like
one show.
Eight or nine.
Okay, because I saw it advertised and I was just like,
oh man, these dudes were, man.
But they family, like I said to you before you came on here, they family was wrecked.
It was some stuff
like
going
they
on.
created some of this.
There was
the mother was a whole mess.
Father was in the closet, but the father was also, now there was questions because the father was part of the record company that discovered Menudo.
Right.
And so there was all these allegations about what was going on with Menudo. It was, wow. And then and this becomes the, as they say in Greek tragedy, the cathartic part of it. You go like, I came from a jacked up family, but it wasn't that jacked
Always.
up. It wasn't that jacked up.
Al Sharpton people, I was like,
yeah. I mean,
you married your stepdaughter? Like,
well,
I mean,
Woody Allen.
And that's what somebody texted me. They said it's some Woody Allen foolishness.
Woody Allen.
But that wasn't. I mean, it was just a lot.
Well, and I think that the thing about our 24/7 news cycle and exposure is that people have been doing this since forever, right? But at the same time, we're just more aware of it. We get details, information with tabloids, and so we find out more information than sometimes we would normally not know. Which brings us to Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor, the great state of North Carolina. I don't know if he put himself in the bind or Trump put him in the bind. But he's put North Carolina into play, which is real interesting.
No victims.
Oh man, ain't nobody feeling sorry for this dude. I mean,
I just said we said, did Trump put him in the bind? No victims.
I mean, and here's the other thing, and it says something about some of the candidates that the Republican Party offer.
Herschel Walker.
I would even put out there Carrie Lake.
But where does this comparison to this way it was worded was Martin Luther King on steroids?
Yeah, that was Donald Trump's description of Mark Robinson.
Yeah.
Let me do a Senator Benson. I knew Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was a friend of mine. Mark Robinson is no Martin Luther King, period. And the fact that, and I said this last week, this is why
there's no Thurgood Marshall.
Right. This is why we should be teaching Black history in schools. So then people won't ever be able to mix up a Mark Robinson and a Martin Luther King Jr. Not even close.
I mean, but who said it though? Who are you responding to? What Donald Trump said?
Yeah.
So trust me, Trump is old enough to know the whole legacy. So even with education, there are some people that still believe in being stuck on stupid. He knows that Mark Robinson, in fact, he may not know because he don't know nothing about Mark Robinson. This is just who people have told him, we want you to consider getting behind this guy. And then he heard a couple of sound bites. Mark Robinson sound like an idiot. Oh yeah, let's get this dude on board. But Donald Trump don't know this man. But he old enough to know better about the difference between him and Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I think that this dude is able to say things that. So let me ask this question, because it's in things that this dude says. So why don't you think? Well, one, do you think he will relent and have that second debate with Kamala Harris?
I don't see it. Debo said no right away. I don't see it because the pressure for him to overperform is going to be so great. It's going to be too much for him. And he would be devastated if he comes into a second debate. Like on this one, he can claim unknown because everybody knew he wasn't really prepping for the debate. At least he said he wasn't. He wasn't doing his homework. He just came in there all willy nilly off the cuff. But the second debate, if you come in and have a bad performance, oh, it's a wrap for you, though. So I don't think he does.
Well, he has stated that because early voting,
Which is all
started
nonsense.
And by the way,
Because why still run
some
commercials?
states.
we listened to you this morning, and
Mhm.
we completed our ballots. And but I asked Rhonda, I said, "But what if we change our minds?"
The likelihood
To
of you
what?
changing your
To
mind,
To who?
the likelihood of you changing your mind is not going to happen.
Likely,
Especially
likely.
Rhonda, I trust, used informed decisions. You, on the other hand, were probably looking over her shoulder, cheating, weren't you? Trying to see how she filled it
He
out.
took a picture of her.
Yeah, and then here comes Michelle this morning, and you can't let anybody see. Really,
No,
really.
not legally.
So I have a question, Michelle. I was talking with Doug about this morning, and Keith, I'm sure you'll be able to assist with this as well. I remember when I was working for another radio station, we did what we call poll watchers, whereas we went out and we would call back to the station as things were developing. Is that doable in this day and age, or is that something that they discourage at this point to just be there? Can you just be there as a poll watcher, as an observer?
Oh yeah.
So most political parties actually deploy poll watchers themselves. We have titles election observers. They
Green vest back in the day.
Yes. So yeah, no, it's a routine thing. And in fact, they're saying that we really are going to need poll watchers because there have been a group of Republicans that have been training Republicans to go in to stand over folks, watch people while they are trying to vote, challenge votes, or ballots being cast, and people are worried about the intimidation factor. So, like I literally had somebody say to me, like, have you made 100 black men or other brothers in the community aware, particularly in urban, Milwaukee area polling locations, that we're going to need a presence just to counter the potential Republican poll watchers that show up in black communities, trying to intimidate people. And I know, I'm going to tell you something. It's so crazy because I was out on Saturday and a group of motorcycle riders rode through the city. White gentlemen, and they were all covered. They had their little vests on with their little whatever they motorcycle group was called, but nobody, you couldn't see anybody's face. Everybody had on a full face mask, and in some cases, it was even like the winter kind, which looked like it's too hot for that. But you only could see their eyes, and then some of them had hats on with and it just looked so menacing as they was driving through the city. And I was just like, what is it? So I understand just the appearance of people can throw people off. So that's what they were saying. Like, if you are somebody who has some time and can volunteer to be a poll observer, to please do that in our communities at your own neighborhood polling location, because there will be people. And some of us, we walk, like I said, when the people rolled up and down Fond du Lac, them white boys on the back of the truck with their guns, AR-15s, and black people was like, what's going on? People literally got scared. So yeah, we definitely can have poll watchers.
And I have gone in, with my press pass, and they put me in the area with the
you had your
observers.
press pass.
Of course, I have my press pass. Gotta get this caller.
Sure.
Caller, welcome to the program.
Chief,
Good morning.
how you doing?
Good.
Good morning. Hey, you see he running from him, right?
Who?
45 is running from your boy from North Carolina.
Oh yeah, he ain't never seen him before.
This is what I'm saying about you brothers supporting this dude. He wasn't running from that white chick, was he? He's making all kind of excuses for her, wasn't he?
You haven't seen her though, have you?
He was making excuses for her.
Yeah, but you haven't seen her
And
lately.
she, what, a week?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
But that
But that's all I called to say, man.
well,
It's
let
just
me.
like y'all
One of
both
the
said, it's
interesting
time.
things about Trump is Trump has yet to get to go beyond 46%. I think there's on a national level where he's gone beyond. He has reached his ceiling. What the Republicans and Donald Trump is hoping is that there will be a depressed turnout, certainly in urban areas, right? And if you have this depressed turnout, that bodes well for Republicans. But right now, you're just looking at some of the polling, the average polling, which has Kamala Harris at about 50%. Anybody knows, unless it's 50-49, that's kind of where you want to be. 50 and above, you certainly want to be. I don't know if he's going to, or even she is going to experience a certain level of erosion in terms of support. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I pointed out there's a lot of passion in this election cycle, and we've had it in the past. We saw it with Barack Obama. We in 2008, 2012, and some could even argue you even saw it in 2016 with Donald Trump. But the enthusiasm, but the emotions, and I said there's two emotions going on. One, that there are people who are really excited about the possibility of a woman of African and Indian descent being the first woman president of the United States. That's driving a lot of people. But there's a lot of people who hate Donald Trump. They hate
Such a
Donald Trump.
harsh word, man.
But it's true, and you get it. So that emotion is also driving people. I think it was a bit muted with Joe Biden because there were concerns that people had privately about the viability of President Biden's campaign. To make that move, to make that shift the way they made that shift, when you knew that the Trump people had, look, he hadn't planned on working. The one thing that Kamala Harris has him out there doing, he has to actually get out there and campaign. Because after the debate performance in June with Joe Biden, was it June? Yeah, it was June. With Joe Biden, he figured it was a lock. And we were saying, especially after the convention, the joke was that Republicans were measuring the curtains at the White House because they just knew it was over. And then there was a shift. And you see this up and down, this up and down, this up and down in terms of polling. But you have not seen a lot of erosion when it comes to support for Kamala Harris. Oh, let me shout out the good folks there at Nate Luckin, the good folks there at the good New Pitts Mortuary. Good morning, gentlemen, ladies. Good morning, y'all. Hey, everybody. Always got to do that. Two people I stopped for, Michelle. New Pitts Mortuary and Batesville Caskets.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, it's interesting, and I shouldn't get so emotionally turned on. I need to be a little bit more objective in terms of. But I'm going up and down. I'm and every morning, Rhonda sent you the picture. Every morning, I'm looking at polls.
Right.
Every morning, and I shouldn't because there's a reliability issue there. Either but I think, and they pointed out Georgia right now. Georgia is very close. You know what Georgia is going to come down to? Black voter turnout. If black voters turn out in Georgia, they can eke out a victory there in Georgia. Looks like Trump is doing very well in Arizona, which was kind of surprising. I think Biden won Arizona by 1 point. And then we need to see what happens. And it was interesting to hear, what's my girl's name? Short hair, MSNBC.
Rachel.
Not Rachel. Sister.
Oh, Joy.
Not Joy. Oh, God.
Oh, Simone.
Simone is from Omaha, Nebraska.
Right.
So they were talking about that District 3. And she was going like, oh, you hit me close to home.
Right.
You're listening to Community Voice. The phone line's open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Should Jordan Love be worried about getting his job back? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 5250. So should Jordan Love be worried about his job, Debo? You think?
Well, they're paying Jordan Love a lot of money.
Yeah, a whole lot of money.
I think the young man has certainly impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Each week he's getting stronger and better.
Yeah.
They're able to throw more at him. You saw different things in the offense that they wouldn't have dare tried the week prior.
Yep.
So he's getting it, and it'd be great to know that you have him as a backup. But the other concern you now have to have is some other team is watching that guy.
Oh yeah. He can do, what's my guy's name? Had the one game with the Packers and against the Patriots, threw for 400 yards, and one game, and ended up signing a big contract with Seattle, only to get cut by Seattle. Packers play Minnesota Sunday. Sam Darnold got hurt yesterday. Minnesota looks pretty good, but he got hurt yesterday, so we'll have to see what the MRI says today in terms of will he be able to play against the Packers. I'm assuming Jordan Love is going to play Sunday. I mean, I think they said he could have played yesterday, but I think it was the turf that they're a little bit worried about. Down in Nashville. And I didn't realize the Packers had gone. This was the first time in 4 tries they ever beat the Titans in Nashville. So to see what that looks like going forward. That defense yesterday, though. Now, again, I understand you playing against Levitz, but that 8 sacks, I mean, they had a sack party yesterday. It was the one dude, 55, when he did the sack strip fumble, he was so excited about that, he didn't know the ball was loose. Van Ness jumped on it. It was just like, but they, it looked good. We'll see what happened against Minnesota. I think they could have beat Philly. But you should not be scheduling a pro football game on a Friday. Come on, man. The only thing worse than that is that game would have played on Friday the 13th in Brazil. But
Philly fair yesterday. When I looked,
Philly ended up winning.
Did they?
Yeah. How about them Cowboys? They paid all that money to Dak Prescott. I hate Dak Prescott. I know that's a strong word.
It's a strong word.
And I'm surprised that all the Cowboy fans up here. Now, I knew my Chicano brothers and sisters. I understand why they're Cowboy fans. A lot of those folks have Texas roots, and I can appreciate that. But there's a lot of black folks in Milwaukee who are Cowboy fans.
They still call themselves America's team.
Yeah, well, I know the owner wasn't very happy yesterday. Kind of looked like he did when the Packers went in there and spanked them in the playoffs last year. But he just paid Dak Prescott all that money.
It was 30-14 or something like that. Was that the final score?
Yeah, and they made a little comeback at the end. Let's see, Eagles Saints. Yeah, the Eagles won yesterday. They beat the Saints 15-12. I was watching. I got Red Zone, so I'm between all those games. And then the WNBA playoffs started yesterday. Look, y'all, I don't know if a lot of y'all watch the WNBA. First of all, it's just these sisters be balling. So great basketball, great level of play. But Aja Wilson, she's a beast. So I can see why she's MVP. Is this her third one? Her third one? So, caller, welcome to the program.
What's going on, Keith?
What's happening, man?
And your Packers wasn't playing nobody. Of course he looked good.
Well, we got 1,000 miles of hate. You're about 1,000 miles away from here, man. You hating on the Packers that 1,000 miles away? What do you mean they didn't play anybody?
Guess what?
They played another professional football team. What do you mean they didn't play anybody?
Because guess what? You still don't like Seattle, and we're 1,000 miles away.
Well, I got a history with Seattle. We don't have that same history with the Titans, but we've had some awful Packer moments when it comes to Seattle. So no, I mean
Okay,
Seattle.
okay. So that means I do have the right to be hating way over here.
Yeah, are you a Seattle fan? You a Seahawks fan?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I told you that last time.
yeah. They didn't look too bad yesterday.
No, we're 3-0. What else you supposed to say?
Oh, okay. Let me say that. And then how about the Rams beating the 49ers?
Oh man,
I
no,
thought
no.
that game was over.
No. How about Minnesota?
Yeah, well,
Minnesota is
they're strong, but again, Sam Darnold, got an MRI today, so I don't know if he plays against the Packers next week. They're playing in Green Bay.
I'm pretty sure you don't want him to play.
Oh man, I don't want him to play.
Rivalry game. He'll play if he's physically capable. He wants that game as well.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the case. Then Love is going to play.
Oh, I think Love could have played yesterday. The way he was moving, he could play yesterday. I think that the Packers figured they were in a better position. That why put him out there, aggravate the injury against a team that I guess they dominated. They dominated. Boy, did you see Baltimore though? Cowboy. Derrick Henry had a run where he stiff armed this dude. That was crazy, man.
That's embarrassing.
I know. I mean, it was like the dude looked like he was like a junior high school playing against a pro player. He just like, dude, really, you too little.
In front of everybody.
In front of everybody, yeah. Down to Jerry's World. I mean, it was. It was. Now, how about them Cardinals?
Yeah, well, they always play hard in the beginning, but they ain't gonna finish strong.
And Murray. I'm trying to figure this out, and I think Lamar Jackson struggles with this, and maybe I'm just old school. I just believe a quarterback should be accurate, right? And I think that you should be able to make the basic throws. And it seems that some of these guys cannot make now they make fantastic throws, but the basic ones, like the basic out pattern, 5 out, overthrow them.
They overthrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, man. And then Murray is small, right?
Yeah, but he gained a little more skill sitting on that bench too for getting hurt.
Yeah, because he missed most of last season, right?
Yeah, he was toe up.
Yeah. And it's tough when you look at the Cardinals, man. I think the Cardinals, let's see now. Yeah, they're another one of the original NFL teams that have yet to win. Have the Cardinals won a Super Bowl?
Heck no.
I don't think so. No.
No.
The St. Louis team that won a Super Bowl was the Rams. Yeah, the greatest show on turf. But yeah, so I think it's them. Detroit, Cleveland has never won a Super Bowl. Cleveland, Detroit. I'm just talking about those teams that. Well, Cleveland came into the NFL. Actually, there was a merger, so they got there. I think in the 40s, 50s.
And what you think about? Browns got to be embarrassed to lose to the Giants.
Oh my God, what's up with Deshaun Watson? You know what? I used to think this in baseball, right? Dude, get a big contract. The next year is awful. But you're saying this with I don't like Russell Wilson, right? Get your money, because if you're getting older, your productivity is going to drop. But Russell Wilson,
Deshaun got too many Asian women. Too many Asian women on the brain.
Most of his contract is eaten up in all those. And then he went back and did it again. It's like, dude got an issue, man.
He liked them little tiny small hands.
Well, I guess, and he expects a happy ending after every massage. Every massage, man. It was gotta go in like, dude, that ain't what a massage is for, right? This is like if you spend more time focusing on throwing the football, like hitting open receivers, as opposed to another lawsuit. He got another one out there, man. It's like,
man, that's why he ain't playing good.
Man,
he too relaxed.
I guess. But you know what? But then Robert Kraft beats his charge. Remember, he went down, saw the prostitute before he flew in, got his little massage, and flew to the Super Bowl.
First of all, you could have had him come to your hotel. You don't go to the actual place.
Well, I guess that it was all in the thing, man. I don't know. It was the ambiance of the
Oh, it was
place. I don't know what.
it's the environment, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Lou Williams. He's not. Is that Magic City in Atlanta?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So he wasn't there for the strippers. He was there for the chicken wings.
For the chicken wings. Yeah. But when you go. I'm telling you, go for the chicken wings.
And look, and we know in Miami, there's a strip club. I think that's on 27th. And Rhonda text me if I'm getting the wrong street. But there's a barbecue place, like a rib place, right across the street from the strip club. It used to be on the property of the strip club. Now I'm gonna tell you, man, this barbecue is off the chain. It's off the chain. Yeah. And they started off over at that strip club, which opens at 6 a.m. and the parking lot is packed. So, I mean, it's wow.
Yeah,
but Lou, and they got the wings in his honor now. Was the lemon pepper wings?
You can actually go like noon here at noon, get your lunch special at the strip club.
Yeah. I can remember back in the day, me and my buddy did. This place used to be called it was Hoops over on State Street, and me and my buddy went there for lunch one time. We were there for the lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Full disclosure, man. I am not, and this has nothing to do with morality, so I don't want people to even think that I'm making a moral judgment. I just never understood strip clubs, and I certainly didn't understand making it rain at a strip club. But for a lot of people, I mean, they love strip clubs, man. You go to Detroit at one point, they're coming off their financial distress, and they had something like 4 casinos, and at the hotel I stayed at next door, and I was trying to figure out, I didn't figure out what it was until the next day I saw all the ballers had their cars out there because LL Cool J was doing a show in Detroit. We just happened to be staying in the hotel he was staying in, and next door, and all this time I've been there for 2 days, I had no clue that it was a strip club until the night of the concert, and every major baller was parked in front of that strip club.
You could have got in free, Keith, with your press pass.
I didn't have a press pass then.
Shut your press pass.
Just here doing my journalistic responsibility. I look at the press pass. But I mean, and that's the thing about athletics, man. And I know these dudes need to blow off steam, man. You're under an enormous amount of pressure if you're a pro athlete. There's no
you're making too much. You can making $1 million.
Right, you're making money. People are watching you.
No pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to the point where, wow, man, you look to do it, but then after a while, and then I can remember, like we were talking about Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley loves Milwaukee.
Yeah, he do, but he always
fight when he come here.
Yeah,
right. Nobody knew about Rosie's Waters Works until Charles Barkley threw that dude through the window.
Threw him through the window.
I mean, and I don't know why. And that happens. I understand that happens in clubs where if you're an athlete, I was telling someone about Victor's back in the day. And I said that if you went the night that the Bucks were playing, they were in town, you see a totally different crowd at Victor's, right? That's where some of the players would go. Huh?
It was called the meat market. That's what my mama told me.
Oh yeah,
man. Called the meat market back in the day.
You remember Jerry Ice Reynolds?
No, I ain't know.
Okay, Jerry Ice Reynolds is a great ball player from New York. He ended up going to he played for Cofield and at UW Madison, and he was drafted by the Bucks. Real good player. He's like 6'8". He was like Penny Hardaway. Dude could really play, and so they were on a road trip. They were going someplace, and he told Nelly that, man, I'm sick. I ain't gonna be able to make this road trip. Nelly, okay, well, take care of yourself. So they get back. They show up at Victor's, and guess who's partying up at Victor's when Nelly walked in? Jerry Ice Reynolds. Like, Wow, man. And you got to know that this is a spot that you go, because what people don't realize about Victor's is a great restaurant. They have great food at Victor's. Everybody call them victims, the meat market. They're famous for their ladies' night. But no, they have great food there. I'm talking about outstanding food. So, all right. So you don't think the Packers going to beat Minnesota? Hello? Hello? I think he's gone. All right. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. Yeah, the only reason why I was there was to make a phone call. Wow. And again, I don't know, we were talking about it. I don't know if we talked about it on the air. I think we did. This is the second mass shooting they've had in Birmingham. I don't understand the mentality that you shoot the place up and all these innocent bystanders who end up being victims over some dumb stuff that people had going on, some beef, some business issue, and this is how you resolve it. Now, I think they said the intended target was killed, but that doesn't make it any better, because I don't know if the other 24 people who either died or were injured was part of that equation. We're not going to have a conversation about the access to firearms and who can get firearms. And I know that a lot of you old school brothers talking about, oh man, back in the day, we just square up. Because back in the day, we have access to AR-15. I can only imagine if we had access. I remember this would have been like 1984, 85. We had taken my sister back to Washington. She was a student at Howard. Me and my buddy drove her back. And I'm watching the news in D.C., and they talk about a shooting on a playground in Milwaukee. And this guy got into a beef. He went and got a semi-automatic. I don't even know how he accessed and shot. I think 3 people died on the playground. I mean, it is. So when I hear people say they go into their car, I believe them. Now, you can sit up and think, oh, he just talking. Great, I heard that he was just talking. But sometimes these people go to the car and they come back and they're serious. Down right outside of Kenosha, where the dude got kicked out the bar. He's mad. Go to his car, come back, shoot up the bar. The dude that killed up, I'm trying to think this, up north, where he went into the bar, got into something, ended up killing the bartender and her husband. So people, it's crazy, man. You'd like to think that people just kind of go out and chill and just kind of hang out and everything. But and here's the thing: we want to put it on young people. It's not exclusively young people. That there are a lot of people out there. I mean, Michelle was talking about this, how they don't have any real kind of emotional guardrails. The maturity level is really low, and so this is how you resolve it. And then people will do it in that moment. And then you realize, wow, what did I just do? And you're going to have the rest of your life. And if you're a family member who's lost a member to senseless gun violence, you have a very different take on this whole issue about folks and how you're able to plea down where, you're going in and they see if they can get you, they're going to get you on manslaughter. You take a manslaughter charge, you might do 10, 15 years. Now you're in the state of Wisconsin, and in the state of Wisconsin, they have truth in sentencing. So that means that you're doing all your time, right? But for that family, that is never consolation. That one, it doesn't bring back the loved one. You can't replace the loved one. And sometimes I just think, now I understand acts. I do and I don't. Acts of passion, in the moment you're angry, but there's a scripture in the Bible that tells us to be angry, but to sin not. It is not your anger that's the sin. It's how you act on that anger. And that there are some people who they don't have great emotional control when it comes to their anger and how they handle their anger. And then they do a thing, and then you do something in that moment, because it just takes a moment that you'll regret for the rest of your life. And we talk about gun violence, but there's verbal violence too. And where our verbal violence can lead us to physical violence. You know, it is it is Donald Trump encouraging people to march on the Capitol. And then things turn out to be what they turn out to be. And now we're talking about January 6th. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Debo Carvey. Hey, you're speaking of gun violence. Hey, Keith, if you had your way, what way would you change the gun laws in this country to save lives?
Oh, I would definitely outlaw the AR-15, AK-47, any semi-automatic weapon. Machine guns are still against the law, right? And you can go in and do a bump stock and convert it into a machine gun, even though they say it's semi-automatic. But I think AR-15s, AK-47s, M16s, these are weapons of war. They should not be on our streets.
I agree to that, but you know what? Some way, I think that most of these homicides are committed with handguns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, what's the law in Canada in regards to firearms?
Oh, they're, I think, for hunting, but I don't think that you're allowed to have a handgun. And I know they're not allowed to have the AR-15 style weapons. And when you look at the homicide rate in Canada, you look at the homicide rate in England, it's low percentage-wise. America is one of the most violent countries on the planet that's not fighting a war, right?
Yes.
I mean, internally what we do and the level of violence that we see in this country. And I think there's a lot of contributors to it in terms of why we're such a violent country, but we really are. And I think we have a tendency to kind of go and try to make it sound like violence is isolated to certain communities. That's not true. Violence is every place in this country. We have to take, when you talk about urban areas like Chicago, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, obviously you're going to have more homicides because you have more people. But then when you take into account all these little small towns where, you have violence and it's not handled the same way as the big city, I just think, I agree, man. We got too many guns on the street. We have more guns on the street than we have books.
I do. Another thing too is with all the technology we have, and all the wars that the United States have fought, and as powerful as this country is in regards to the world wars, and we can't even control the gun violence in our country. And do you think that this is a form of population control in regards to just letting the gun laws remain the way that they are?
No. I think what has happened is you have a gun lobby, NRA, that is so absolute in their support of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, that they do it, and then Americans become the collateral damage, because NRA is generating millions and millions of dollars. That's a whole other piece of it that people are missing. And then they influence politics because of the money that they're able to raise. It's a real fascinating. If you ever go a chance to see where the NRA started, it was a hunting club, right? That's how it started. And then it rolled, then it manifested itself. And then because there were people who were suing gun manufacturers, right, for death, Congress then went in and made it more difficult for you to sue a gun manufacturer. And a lot of that was because of NRA. But I just think that Americans are collateral damage when it comes to the gun lobby. The idea, like this guy who, he said, I don't know why he would put it in writing, because the guy that was down at was in Mar-a-Lago, and he was going to shoot the president. And I guess they have a statement where he said it was an assassination attempt. Well, actually, if you have a lawyer, the lawyer is going to say, no, it wasn't. Secret Service got him. He never got a shut off. He never aimed at the president because the president wasn't in his eyesight. He might have came with that intention, but it didn't happen. So we'll see how good a lawyer this dude has. He thinks it's a joke. So we'll see.
Right. Hey,
Well, you asked me a question about Canada. Canada,
Yes.
just as of October 21st, 2022, there's a national freeze on the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns.
Hey, and I have one more question for you. Do you think that the gun violence in this country affects the African Americans more than any other ethnic group?
Say that again.
Do you think that the gun violence in this country affects the African Americans more than any other ethnic group?
The gun laws or the availability of guns?
The gun violence.
Gun violence.
The gun violence. Do you think that it affects African Americans more than any other ethnic group? And in other words, do you think that more African Americans are being killed in this their country than any other group of people?
That's a good question. I'm gonna pull it up and see if there's any data out there.
I would venture to say no.
Why would you say that?
I mean, we're not the only ones making the news.
Right.
We're not the only ones making. We're not the only ones making the news.
And I guess the other reason I would say it that way is typically, and I don't want to sound insensitive, but typically Caucasians are going to be the ones that you're going to see do those mass shootings where you're getting 20 at a time versus, how long it would take us for 20 people to get killed here in the city versus a mass shooting.
All you got to do is go to Chicago for that one. Hey, I'm gonna hang up and listen, man. I'll be interested in hearing what your answer.
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay, thank you.
Gun
Okay.
violence. Well, Chicago, I don't know if Chicago is no, he's right. Just pulled it up. Black Americans are disproportionately affected by gun violence with higher rates of gun homicides than any other racial group in the United States. It is the chances of you being affected by gun violence is 2.6 times higher than white Americans. Black youth, 12.2 per 100 in 2022, 6 times higher than white youth. And then black people, 7.65 gun homicides per year. So black people are disproportionately affected by gun violence. That's it. That's a great question. And there's probably causal factors. Obviously, there are causal factors that go into it. Poverty is a contributor. Other kind of social stressors are contributors. Again, the availability of guns. And I don't know if black people are, how do I say this? I don't know if it's how black people, and I hate to do it because it becomes pejorative, how we resolve conflict. But I think that when you look at it again, I think we'd have to also say, like, what's my chances of being affected by gun violence living in Tupelo, Mississippi, as opposed to living in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm a black person. All right. Someone just texted me, said I tell you that all the time and I make excuses. I don't know if trying to understand causal factors is not an excuse. It's just these are drivers, right? And you kind of try to do it from an objective view, which is hard because violence is subjective. But that's kind of where I am. You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. To Community Voice, and we're joined in studio by Mr. Marco Morrison of the College Possible program. Good morning, man.
Good morning to you.
Just
Thank you
going
for having
through.
me.
Oh man, thank you for coming.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you for listening. And was I as tall as you thought I was?
Maybe, yeah. I would say you probably are height wise what I would have imagined for sure. But again, I thought you would have more of like a beard or something.
Oh, man, I never grow a beard, man. That's a long story, but it's scar tissue from acne back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, I like yours, man.
Hey, I'm trying.
Up, man. You gotta.
Couldn't even get into my barber this week. I had to do this myself. So
is that right?
Yeah,
When they call it the Kitchen Supreme. Back in the day when they had blowouts, the dog had that Kitchen Supreme blowout. That means they had the hot comb in there, man. This hair going here. You're a native of Milwaukee?
Yeah. Born and raised.
Proud graduate of Rufus King High School. Generals.
Yeah.
What year was that?
98.
98.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Grew up pretty much all around the city.
Okay.
So I didn't really have
that mean y'all moved a lot?
Yeah, man. We
I'm
moved.
just messing with you.
No, seriously. I mean, we moved so much, man. I mean, I think that's probably why I connect with so many people throughout the city, because I've lived in almost every neighborhood known to man in Milwaukee. So,
is that right?
Yeah.
Man, I grew up in one zip code.
Okay.
1-2. My entire from zero. I was born in 1-2, right there on the corner of 2nd and North Avenue.
Okay.
So man, my whole, and then after that I found 06, 10.
Yeah.
I worked on the south side, 04, 15, 33. So you grew up and how'd you get down to Parkside? Why did you pick Parkside?
Parkside. Well, I mean, I was always a good student. Growing up, and they wanted to skip me when I was in 5th grade. And then ironically, when I went into 6th grade, I actually failed. So I flunked 6th grade, again, moving around a lot, family circumstances, so on and so forth. But when it was time for me to go to high school, I lived on 4th and Center. And for whatever reason, my mom did not want me to go to North Division. So she, kind of manipulated the system, used my grandma's address, got me into Rufus King. So went to King and didn't necessarily know that I wanted to go to college or anything like that. Kind of just was smart and going through the process, working the system kind of thing. But had a recruiter come on campus, and at that point in time, I just wanted to kind of get out of class every chance I could. So it was like that junior year. It's like I signed up for every college visit known to man, just to get that pass to get out of class. So ended up connecting with the recruiter, Bridget Johnson from Parkside, and she really just kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of what college could offer and provide. And it was a small university, so I felt like that would be more of my lane. Not kind of jump into this for the first time without having a real plan.
Close enough to home,
and close enough to home that if I wanted to get back on any given night or on the weekend, I could.
That is when you think that's how I ended up in the high school I ended up in, because God was like, you guys want to get out go and visit this high school? We get out of school? Yeah, let's go. I had no clue to where we were going, and we pulled up. But I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I flunked kindergarten, and my mother didn't want me to go to then Robert Fulton. Those grew up here, Fulton. And so I had to use an address. And again, not being the sharpest knife in the drawer, I had to figure out when I'm talking to somebody which address I use, right? It's just like you put down your real address. I thought you lived at 13. Oh, yeah, I do. I don't know what. So, but, and you know what that really is? That's a legacy of the segregation policy. Like that you had to go to that feeder school.
Yeah, neighborhood.
Right. So if you would have been 4th and Center, 5th Street was closed then, right? When you came on. So 5th Street was closed. But if you went to OWH, if you went to Victor Berger, you were going to be at Fulton. But they did that, and we had these districts, and you literally had to transfer. So if you wanted to go to, let's say, I wanted to go to Marshall.
Okay.
Then either I would have to transfer in the district or use somebody's address. And then when Marshall was, there wasn't a whole lot of black people, living in that area, because our population was so much smaller when I was in school. So that's fascinating, man, that you do that. That's what people did, literally use other people's addresses in order get into the school of their choice. So you go down to Parkside and you do your undergraduate degree in sociology and communication. What was ethnic studies like?
Well, kind of how it all started. Again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and college to me was just an opportunity to kind of learn on my own terms. So like I would, whatever interest I had, I could pick some classes to kind of help feed that urge to learn more. And so I remember just taking sociology 101 my freshman year, and at the beginning of the book in sociology 101, forget what the chapter was about, but I just remember reading that Milwaukee is the most segregated city in the country. So as a freshman, first generation college student, I'm just like, man, so any student that's around the world that's reading this book, this is the perception that they get, that Milwaukee is the most segregated city in the country. And I'm just like, okay, well, if this is kind of the mindset of how people view us, then I wanted to investigate the why. And so sociology opened my eyes up to that. And then got interested in communication because I wanted to figure out like what was the communication breakdown or barriers against amongst cultures, and even just amongst Black people in general. Like, why is communication so dysfunctional? But ethnic studies was more of a well-rounded, here's a cultural foundation of other people outside of Black people. And I was just, again, knowing that I was going to be in a mixture of a world that wasn't all about Blackness and Black people. I just felt that it was important for me to get at least a baseline understanding of other people and where they come from.
So the recruiter, and I'm kind of getting to where we are. We have programs like Upward Bound, EOP. So this is like first generation folks, first time going to college. Was that your situation?
No, for me, I grew up in the hood, so like I was smart, but I wasn't trying to spend my afternoons or early Saturday mornings in those types of programs. So I didn't have, I wish I would have, but I wasn't attracted to those programs at that time, because I was kind of just, figuring out life on my own. But those types of programs are impactful to, all students who participate in them.
Yeah, because I think the earlier we expose young people to the possibility of going to college, I think for some of them it's an abstract because they've never been on a college campus, have no clue. I remember my godson, they went down to Marquette and they took him to the student union. So he thought college was a student union. And I was like, dude, that's what I thought when I used to go over and play ball at UWM. It was the gym, it was the student union, classrooms, library, but I think that exposure where now you see that is a possibility. I think there's an expectation. We want people to aspire to something that they've never been exposed to. I don't know how you can do that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I had an uncle who was not too much older than me, who I was able to see go throughout that process. So he went to Mississippi Valley State, and so as a young impressionable teen, when my grandparents used to drive him down to college, and
Steve McNair.
What was that?
Was he down with Steve McNair? Was Steve McNair? No, he was at Alcorn. Who's that?
Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice graduated from Mississippi Valley
and Willie
State,
Totten.
right?
There you go. That's the guy that was throwing Jerry Rice.
Yeah. So just being able to experience like that trip of going down there and being able to see him, in college and look, seeing his dorm room. The unique part of it was obviously that it was a HBCU. So just being in a space where there were all Black people who looked like you that were down there for the same reason, and just being able to see my uncle kind of go through that process was really sort of the foundation of where I thought that it was possible for me to be able to do the same thing.
Where is Eastern Illinois? What city?
Eastern Illinois is in Charleston, Illinois. So it's about an hour away from Terre Haute. Actually, it's about an hour and a half away from Indianapolis as well.
Okay.
So it's about 4.5 hours drive south of here.
Okay. So what would that be? I'm trying to figure the interstate. Would that be?
Man, I drove the interstate so much I forgot what it was. But I ended up at Eastern Illinois for grad school, partially because I didn't know, again, and part of my story is kind of unique, is that the reason that I was able to stay in the college is that my freshman year, I met a woman by the name of Mary Day who worked in the pre-college department, and she helped, minority students, Black students with scholarships, things of that nature. And so at first generation, I had failed to fill out my financial aid the right way. So I filled it out for one semester. And so while everybody's packing up, ready to go on for break, I was packing up, going home for good. And she heard my story through one of my guys named Soup, that's from Racine. And I ended up talking to her, and I had missed all the deadlines. And she was like, you know what, I can give you a full-time job to make ends meet so you can stay in school. And so I began work in the pre-college department, which to me was the saving grace that, to me, it saved my life from coming back, home and, just trying to navigate that space and figuring it out on the fly.
But home was still calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how'd you get up back here?
Well, after I left grad school, I worked for a year out at UW La Crosse and just realized that, as a Black man, I really wasn't needed in that space. It was just more or less, I didn't feel a lot of fulfillment or need, or that I was able to impact many people, as opposed to just being kind of like an identifier of a Black man that's on this campus. And so as I was thinking of, and I went to school originally to be a dean of students for a college. I switched my major then to become a principal. So I came back to Milwaukee with the expectation that I would jump into education, become a principal. But that was all motivation of just hearing about and reading about what was happening with our educational system and feeling like as a educated Black man, I could be a conduit to some type of change. And that's what drove me back to Milwaukee.
You work for the Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah. So that experience was a good experience, and I appreciated that learning of how nonprofit works and how, like, again, that sector of education and wraparound and holistic support looks like from a community standpoint. And so that gave me a lot of insight on the different opportunities and resources that existed out here for our young people outside of the normal education system.
So tell us about the College Possible program. What is College Possible?
Yeah, so College Possible is the largest access and success organization in the state. We are a national organization with 8 sites around the country. Milwaukee was the second site outside of the primary site, which was Minnesota. But we help students to get to and through college, so starting in their junior year, help, working with them to identify what types of careers they might want to go into and how that correlates to their selection of which college they would want to choose. And then, senior year is all of the things of applying essays, scholarships, so on and so forth. And then, we provide support for them throughout their entire journey. So whether it takes them, if they go to a 2-year, a 4-year, if it takes them 6 years to get to and through, then College Possible provides the coaching and the necessary mentorship to let them get through.
How early can a person be part of College Possible? You said in your junior
year? Yes, it was junior year. And right now we do serve select schools throughout the city, a combination of public, private, choice charter, so on and so forth. But we are looking or have already got plans to expand to do more community-based outreach to support students where they are in their communities outside of, just serving students at those select schools.
I used to be a college recruiter.
Okay.
For my alma mater. And one of the things, and I was minority recruitment and retention. So I would go in and one of the things, and it's one of the questions here is, it was kind of hard to, in certain spaces, to get people to understand the value of a college education.
Right.
Now, some people are going to argue, you know what, you can do as well without a college education. You could. You could. Mm-hmm. And then here's the other thing: college is not for everybody.
Right.
But to be able to talk about it, so I'm glad you're getting, because what I discovered was there were people wanting to wait until April of their senior year to make a decision about where they wanted to go to college. Yeah. And by that time, all spaces are gone.
That's right.
We had a thing where we'd have to wait till mid-February before we would send out acceptance letters, because the Ivies and more competitive schools are sending theirs out. Those people trying to do early interest, and then, you're trying to scramble to see what's left after, if you have schools. Well, Carroll College would be an example of that. St. Lawrence, or Lawrence University. Is it St. Lawrence, right? Which one is up in Appleton? Is that Lawrence?
I think it's Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah, which is a highly competitive school. So, but trying to get young minority students to say, you know what? You actually should start be looking for college prep like in 8th and 9th grade.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I would. Yeah. Like you said, the early exposure is
exposure.
crucial to that entire process.
Right. You know, because I want to be a doctor, and I'm looking. I don't see a math course. I don't see any science and any advanced science.
That's right.
It's gonna be hard. I mean, unless you know, very few of us are geniuses where we're able to go and I can do that. But I think that exposure becomes real important. I think you can also let them know what courses they should be taking in high school.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%, and that's really where it starts. I mean, in order to be able to be successful at the collegiate level, you have to have a strong academic foundation going into college. Because at that point in time, once you get in, there is they do have remedial courses and things like that, but it's a waste of time to take, multiple semesters of remedial math and English that don't count towards your degree, so on and so forth. So I would say that, the foundation of being academically prepared going into it is one of the most crucial aspects of it.
It's because UWM was talking about one of the issues they had with certain students graduating from MPS was that they had to put them in remedial. I mean, just to get you up to freshman college level.
That's right.
In English and in math and in science, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. If I had a regret, I wish I was more disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we have to. I think that's also part of it too, where. Like if you were raised by school teachers, you in a different space in terms of your preparation for college, because once they know, they understand what it is teaching, they know the different stages that you should be at, what level you should be at a certain age. So the benefits of having school teachers, but most of us don't have school teachers as parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I also think that a lot of that insight comes from people who've come before you that puts the importance on education because they didn't get it. So like my grandfather dropped out of school in the 6th grade back in the day, and his life was just work all up until the point where he worked at A.O. Smith and eventually worked there for 40 plus years.
And did well.
Exactly. And so his education was 6th grade level, but growing up, the importance that he put into, all of his grandchildren and his kids was, hey, go out and get an education so you don't have to work as hard as me, throwing the steel, as he used to say.
And then you look at, and now those jobs don't exist.
Correct.
And because many of my classmates, when they came out, as opposed to when none of us were really going to go to the military, because at that point it was after Vietnam. And so military service. So, but people were able to get jobs at A.O. Smith, Harris Swager. I mean, do very well. At one point, Milwaukee had the biggest black middle class in the country because of these factory jobs.
Right.
But that's 40 years ago. And they're not coming back. So college, I think, is a bit, if nothing else, your exposure, you were just saying this, your exposure to different people.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I'm able to navigate the world is because I went to college and I was able to, learn how to communicate with other people, think, not necessarily understand how they think. And my uncle, who passed away some while ago, he used to always say, man, you got to be able to infiltrate them to know how they think, what they do, because all of that impacts you. So if you can kind of get an inside look on that and some perspective on that, then you'll be able to navigate those experiences and circles a lot better than being on the outside looking in. So I always took that level of advice and really stuck to it, throughout my entire professional journey as well.
Yeah, because when you talked about how Milwaukee was such a segregated city, what people miss, what's the big deal? Black people live around black people. Exposure is important, man. And I know, look, and people, you acting white. No. You've been exposed to things. And a lot of people haven't had that exposure, which gets us, I love the name College Possible, because you don't even see that as a possibility.
That's right.
I mean, you haven't been told that that you're smart enough to do it. And so, and then I think we fall into this whole cultural abyss where we go like, well, you just trying to, that's for white people.
And it's funny because, again, I grew up in the hood all my life, and so for me, being smart was the gift and the curse, because it was almost like, you were too smart to really be fully committed to the guys in the hood that was going out there and was doing everything, but you had to be a part of it, or situations could be different where you got more issues in the neighborhood than not. But then it was also the other aspect of it where individuals in the neighborhood appreciated that I had this intellect. You know, like I was kind of, you know, I wore glasses. So they used to call me the professor. But so I had this balance of being like the smart kid, but the wild kid at the same time. And they always was just like, hey, man, you got something special in you. You need to focus on being in this direction, you know, more than anything else, you know.
And I
that
think who
helps.
you surround yourself with becomes real important. This was random. We just happened to move on a block where it wasn't a problem to read.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you know, we wouldn't play football together. And this is so crazy, so nerdy. But then we'd all go to the library together and get books, right? You know, and so I was fortunate to be on that block because I could have been on 4th Street and they had a totally different mentality going on over there, right? But you're right in terms of being able to do this. I think the other thing for us descendants of enslaved Africans is that we're descendants of the Mali dynasty, right? Where the richest man in the world, right? That's African.
Yeah.
And you had the University of Timbuktu where they did the first cataract surgery. White people didn't invent knowledge.
Right. And those are things that I didn't even learn from white people. Like I got all of that knowledge from, you know, my family, you know, so like my grandparents, my uncles who were really about understanding Black culture and where we've been. That was always a foundation in our family as well, is that you have to understand where you've been, understand where you need to go. And being able to have that perspective, although I was going through things throughout, you know, my childhood and growing up, just having Black men in my life that would be able to speak to those things that help me make life make sense was also a crucial factor in my overall development as well.
One of my high school classmates, and they would listen on the program. He said something so funny to me, and he was going like, "Did I go to high school with that dude?" And I was going like, "Yeah, I never gave any indicator that I don't want to use the word smart because I'm not smart, but I did have this curiosity. You know, I love learning. You know, I mean, it is. I wish I was more disciplined as a student, but no, I mean, I really loved. I told him, I said that was one thing they never accused me of in high school was being a student. I was enrolled there, but they never made that accusation. But it was that exposure that that I saw possibility. You know, and I think that you learn possibility. I think the other thing is maybe you begin to realize what's on the inside of you.
Facts.
You know, and being able to develop that. I had an opportunity to speak with Erica Wood. She's married to Wendell Pierce. And she was saying one of her favorite movies is The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Great book. I think Mr. Sam Greenlee. Great book. Great movie. But the concept that they had so marginalized, dude said, okay. And he sat there and he took in everything. He took in everything. You know, and that idea that sometimes, like, I love when you said that you're being exposed to things. Now, the other piece of it is we also know, and I don't know if that was the case at Parkside, but for a Black person after athletics, Black Student Union. And if you were an athlete, you were, you know, the Black Student Union. Which opened up a whole new world for me. I was like, oh man. We're joined in studio by Mr. Marco Morrison. God, I'm just talking college possible. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Is it attached to a particular institution, or it's just you're preparing kids to go wherever they're going to go?
Yeah, so really we just try to show up where the most need is. So like I said before, we're in a number of public, private, charter choice schools. So really where wherever the need is, and the ensurement that our population that we intend to serve is present as well. So it's that first generation, students of color priority that we have, for wherever we select to provide programming.
We were talking about sometimes how you catch it. You're going to talk about what it was like to be like a black male, in that white space.
Mm-hmm.
How much cultural preparation goes on in your working with the kids?
Yeah, so that is, again, when we work with our students about, match and fit is what we call it, so it's like, what do you want to do? And then when you think of in terms of the match of what school is going to match sort of your career interests, future aspirations, and then the fit comes down to financial, social, recreational, cultural, so on and so forth. And so we provide students with a lot of guidance or advice, but it really is on them to do a lot of the research and the investigation of those institutions to figure out if it's an institution that they can see themselves at. We do provide campus tours to a lot of our UW schools, so they're able to go there and obviously experience it, meet with student organizations and things like that. But a lot of it is going to be a certain level of culture shock for Black and brown students who are typically going to these predominantly white institutions.
I dealt with culture shock in high school.
Yeah.
So and I had a lot of classmates from DC and Baltimore, Newark, Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And they had been in predominantly Black spaces, and now we're in a literally a rural space, predominantly white. There is no Black community that you could even go to. Maybe go down to Frederick, but so now you have to figure out how do I navigate this?
Yeah, it's figuring out.
Black student.
Yeah, no, true. No, that's usually the first stop after you check into your room. It's like, hey, where the Black people
Where the Black people?
And meeting at 3. All right,
where the Black people at? I love it. So I got to ask this question, man. A lot of card playing?
Oh yeah, man, we bring everything to the campus. So cards, dominoes, whatever. We even outside playing cans. We make it happen.
Oh man, and I don't play cards, which is really crazy.
Okay.
I'm not a
you're
guy.
gonna get that side eye every time.
I know, man. That was the whole Black knee, right? This whole thing with the dude that know how to play. Where were they playing? Bid? Where you reneging? Bid, right? Is that where you renege? Or
spades?
Yeah.
Where you renege, right?
Yeah, okay. And they playing, and this dude that never played, and his whole line was, because we didn't play spades in Vermont. And this dude was so traumatized because they wouldn't let him live it down, right? I mean, but my earliest memory, well, even at I went to American Baptist College for a year in Nashville. Even there, Black people playing cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pastime,
man.
It's a cultural foundation.
It was, but you're right, and I think that piece. But depending on what environment you come from, the first thing you do look for where the Black students.
You have to.
Where the Black students.
Yeah, because you want to have a sense of you are not alone, even though in many regards you will be, right? Depending on the path that you choose. But you want to find a certain level of affiliation, a certain level of comfort, just to make that process just a little bit easier. If you're going to commit to it to 4 to 6 years, like you need to have allies and a certain level of support. Even though you might come from different walks of life, just the visual aspects of being around your own people is something to appreciate.
And if you come from a certain environment where you feel like you're doing catch up,
facts.
And I know Dr. Myers said they read it at King, but we didn't read it at Dominican. I had never read Beowulf. And
okay.
So English literature, the first person you talk, Beowulf is like, oh man. And then you're doing it. I'm just saying the exposure to things really helps academically. So
definitely,
my mother, any chance you got to take a trip, my mother made us go because she just felt like the more you expose to the world, the better you are, more rounded you are.
That's right.
The comfort level that you have, but it does not come without its challenges.
Oh, for sure. I mean, me going into college and, sort of being just, sort of deer in the headlights, trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. It was a challenge because at that point in time, you're trying to find your identity of who you plan on being moving forward. So it's like during high school, you were this person, you might have been the guy, X, Y, and Z. And this is like, now you're at this new level and you have to almost reinvent yourself, like who are you going to be moving forward? And what preparations are you going to undergo to be the person that you ultimately want to be? So it's a lot of that goes into play when you're going to school. It's not just about the academic pieces. There's a lot of interpersonal aspects about it as well. And so, again, choosing the people that you want to be around, and then also choosing the path that is less taken. Like I said before, I was a smart kid, but I was a knucklehead. And I remember after my freshman year, DJ Evans, who was a hall director at the time, he came to me and was just like, "Hey, man, I see you got a handle on all of these knuckleheads that's around here that's causing problems, so on and so forth. I need somebody that they'll respect in order for them to not put themselves in a position where they might not be here." So he asked me to apply to be a RA. Okay. And at that point, it was like, hey, I don't want to be no cop. I ain't trying to tell on people.
Depending on your RA.
Right. So I wanted to be still be the cool guy and not kind of fall.
My RAs were blind. They were blind. They had no sense of smell.
Right.
And one dude, I didn't even realize he was my RA until about 4 or 5 weeks into the semester. But man, depending on who your RA was, now some dudes really were cops. They took that RA thing real serious. And that's the other thing, you get paid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To me, it was a means to an end. So It's just like, hey, if I can save $4 or $5 grand on room and board by taking this role, that makes sense, because then if I get these extra grants in my financial aid package, that's money that's coming back to me because I can't depend on anybody to support me throughout this journey. Right. So to me, it was more of a strategic play, whereas on the outside looking in, it's just like, all right, who does brother think he is? Now he falling into this group, so on and so forth. But, that's gonna happen, but you got to be able to
and the thing,
navigate through that.
I was I didn't really run around with knuckleheads anyway. I mean, I had other things going on. So that's the thing. If you have positive things going on and you're doing that, you don't have time for the negative, right? And so I was pretty fortunate, and the level of support that I got, I mean, the level of pride that people put. And I didn't always realize that. My mother said something to me. We were talking, and she said, I apologize for not being able to provide you more financial support when you were in college. And I apologized to her. I said, I apologize that I was so trifling, so lazy that I didn't work hard enough to get scholarships, because I could have, right? I mean, it shouldn't have been on you. It was really on me,
right?
To be able to do. Now, I was fortunate because I was still able to get Social Security while I was in college, so the financial strain wasn't as much.
Okay.
At a certain level of poverty, you pretty much have everything. But I think the cultural piece of it becomes real important. But I told him, hey, look, it can be the best 4 or 5 years of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
You meet people that are going to be in your life for the rest of your life. You're going to be exposed to things. And I think, as you have shown, you can come back and be a positive benefit to the community.
Yeah, and you should, and I had a similar situation or experience with my mom, where I had to, learn to give her grace for her inability to support me through that process. Right. And so again, part of your motivation could be bitterness, frustration, anger, and that's, was something that keeps you going. And I think that for me, a part of my journey did include all of those things,
And it's, let me ask you this, and you mentioned this about being able to navigate the space as a Black male.
Yeah.
I'm concerned how we're raising our Black males in terms of them, more about them being academic. If you go over to Lincoln Park on Saturday,
okay,
park packed with people there for the football leagues, right? Dads all over the place. And But we don't say to our boys like we do to our girls so much, man, you need to sit down and study.
Right.
I mean, and we need to get you to the point where you sit down and you understand. Now, our immigrant African brothers and sisters, because they come here for education,
That's right.
you know,
It's
it's
first priority.
Books before ball.
That's right. That's right.
Agulawali, is that her name? That's Agulawali,
I
right?
believe so. Yeah.
Her dad is a principal.
Mm-hmm.
And guys were out at Vincent and said, you know what she used to do? She'd come in, she'd do her homework, and then she'd be out playing ball.
Yeah.
Now, I'm giving my mom credit for this. If I was not doing what I need to do academically in school, I wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm.
Not that team would miss me, but I wouldn't play. And I've seen where, and then when I started coaching 7th and 8th graders, when I get like those progress reports, like, dude, you ain't playing. And when her mom would call, say he ain't playing, because, you know, sometimes, let him play, because, you know, no. Because I would prefer to have his feelings hurt now, so he can understand the importance of you need to handle this level of responsibility.
That's right.
Because sports is, especially in high school, it's an extracurricular, man. It's not.
But it's also a means to an end for some families, right?
Right.
When you think about the quickest way to get that generational wealth that is sort of the Northern Star, it's like to have a young man that is athletically gifted, that can, you know, go out and play this sport at the highest level. You know, you invest into that because that's almost like the meal ticket, right? Like the educational aspect of is more of a wait and see. It's a longer process to a degree to see what that looks like. And so I just think that we put more emphasis
Deferred gratification, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're right. I mean, in terms of, again, as a college recruiter, I would say, like, I know, man, you're going to get a job, but I'm saying that when you look at it, fulfillment in your life, and let's, you know, you could get a college education and still not get your dream job.
True.
But the one thing they can't take from you is the knowledge.
That's right.
That that you get. But I just think we need to be harder on our boys academically.
I mean, but I think that so when you think about that, you also have to go back a few layers before that and just look at just the educational system as a whole. It's like, how are we educating this new generation of young people? You know, when I was growing up, again, high schools had an expert expertise in an area. You know, if you went to tech, you were going to sort of the tech skills trade route. You know, if you went to Washington, I think that they might have had like culinary support or something. You went to King, you knew you were going college bound. So I think that our educational system has changed so much and has become somewhat so diluted that it's not providing students with an intentional outlet to, you know, really increase their, you know, knowledge or passion about certain things. And it's harder and harder to kind of, you know, educate everybody with a broad brush, you know, and we have to get back to, you know, understanding how this new generation of young people learn, how they embrace knowledge, how they embrace technology as a part of learning. And if we don't evolve with that, then I think that we're doing a disservice to these young people.
And I think that to talk about the future, you know, we're so immediate, you know, want right now. And you know, now I'm older, it's amazing because I look and I'm watching a guy, he comes in his freshman year. Mm-hmm. And I'm going like, dude, got another 3 years, right? I don't know, did it feel long to you, like when you went in as a freshman and then?
No, to me, it went fast because I was involved in a lot. You know, it was like once I got that urge to, hey, you know, and part of it was like you got full independence. It's like nobody's telling you what to do, when to get up, if you go to class or not. It's like being able to get up in the morning and decide you're not going to go to work. It's like, well, today I'm going to miss all my classes because it just is what it is, you know, but you also pay the consequences for those decisions too. But I would say that it went faster for me because I took advantage of the things that were there in order to keep me busy, you know. So I was an RA, I was part of BSU, I was president of student government, you know, and things of that nature.
SGA?
Yeah. I mean, so again, one of my stories goes back to that, you know, that I was thinking about earlier. As a black man in that position, right? I remember like it was yesterday, Black Student Union came up to, well, as a president of student government, I had charge of like a $1.8 million budget, right, through SUFAC. And so I remember BSU coming to me with their budget. They wanted like 300 grand. No, right? And so I have to pick through their budget just as much as everybody else's, you know. And once I decided not to give them their full budget, man, there was so much backlash on campus. I was Uncle Tom. I wasn't the guy that was looking out for his own people and all of that. So, it's a challenge.
I was president of BSU, and the guy was running, so I supported him. And so they gave me the role as parliamentarian.
Okay.
Boy. The power I had, man. Can we do this? Gotta go ask Keith. Gotta go ask Keith. If folks are interested in involving their child in this program, what can they do?
Yeah, all they need to do is go to our website, collegepossible.org. You'll be able to find a Wisconsin location. And we'll get you in touch with one of our program leads. And if you're interested in potentially partnership, then again, we've got individuals on our team that can help support that conversation too.
Mr. Marco Morrison, College Possible. Man, this was, you want to come back?
Oh, great. Have me anytime. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
My wife. Okay. Don't say it like that. Yeah, time to go. Shut him down.
Right.
Shut him down. See the director back there. Let me thank Debo, Carvey, Michelle, Marco, thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate you,
as
man,
well.
and really enjoyed the conversation. Hey, the good Lord willing, Creek don't rise. I won't be with you tomorrow. Dr. Myers will be covering for me. I'll see you all on Wednesday. And as always, go from this place in peace.